Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining me today because you're about to dive into one of the most fascinating, surprising, and downright mind-boggling stories in the entire world of coin collecting, a tale that blends history, numismatic science, rarity, human error, and the irresistible thrill of treasure hunting into one long, winding, unbelievable journey. And the star of our show is none other than the seemingly ordinary 1966 Washington quarter dollar that, in a twist nobody could have imagined, has been valued at an eye-watering $5 million because of a set of highly unusual, almost impossible, minting errors and anomalies that have turned what should have been a standard piece of pocket change into one of the most sought-after, closely studied, and hotly debated coins in existence. And if you think that sounds like exaggeration, prepare to be amazed because by the end of this deep dive you'll see why so many collectors and experts consider this coin the holy grail of American quarters. And you might even find yourself staring at your spare change with a whole new sense of curiosity and excitement. So let's set the stage by first remembering what was going on in 1966 in the United States, a time when the nation was in the midst of rapid cultural shifts. The coinage system was itself undergoing major changes, and the U.S. Mint was wrestling with the aftermath of the 1964 silver crisis, which had led to the removal of silver from circulating quarters, replaced with a copper-nickel-clad composition that was less costly but also less beloved by traditionalists, and because the Treasury was trying to meet enormous demand for coins while dealing with metal shortages and massive production pressures, the conditions were perfect for unusual mistakes to occur, and in that whirlwind of production, somewhere, somehow, a quarter dollar emerged that would defy all odds, carrying with it a cluster of minting errors so rare that they might never have occurred together before or since. And this is where the mystery begins, because the coin in question does not just have one error, not two, but a constellation of at least half a dozen distinct anomalies, each of which on its own could make a coin desirable to collectors, but combined in a single piece they create an object of almost mythical rarity. So let's go step by step through what makes this 1966 quarter so special, starting with the first and most immediately obvious feature, the double die obverse, where the lettering in Liberty and the date 1966, as well as the motto "I in God We Trust," show a strong, naked eye visible doubling caused by a misalignment during the hubbing process when the die was being prepared, and this kind of error can produce a ghost-like shadow of the letters and numbers, giving the coin a slightly blurred but distinctly doubled appearance that catches the light in unusual ways. And while double dies are known in the coin world, they are uncommon in post-1964 clad quarters, making this one already noteworthy. But then comes the second anomaly, a triple strike, meaning the coin was struck not once, not twice, but 3 times in the press, each strike slightly rotated relative to the previous one, producing a mesmerizing pattern of overlapping images that makes George Washington's profile look almost like it's in motion and the reverse eagle appear layered and surreal. And the odds of a coin escaping quality control with such a dramatic triple strike are incredibly slim, especially in 1966 when the Mint was still cautious about public perception after the silver transition, yet this one did. And it gets stranger still when we look closer and realize that the planchet itself, the blank metal disc before striking, wasn't the correct composition for a 1966 quarter, because testing revealed it to be a leftover silver planchet from 1964, meaning this coin, unlike ordinary 1966 quarters which are copper-nickel clad, has the 90% silver, 10% copper alloy of its older siblings, giving it both intrinsic melt value and the appeal of being an off-metal strike. And how could that happen, you might ask? The most plausible theory is that a few silver planchets were accidentally left in the hopper or storage bins at the Mint and got fed into the presses in 1966, a rare but documented type of error known as a transitional wrong planchet strike, which collectors prize immensely. And in this case, the fact that the wrong planchet also carried all the other errors makes the coin's story almost unbelievable. But we're not done, because this coin also exhibits a broad strike, meaning it was struck without the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place, causing the metal to spread outward more than normal and giving the coin a larger than standard diameter with slightly flattened rims, a feature that, combined with the triple strike and doubled die, makes for a bizarre overall look that is instantly recognizable to trained eyes. And when you flip the coin over to examine the reverse, you find yet another quirk. The eagle's tail feathers are misaligned and partially missing, due to a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies slammed into each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of each design faintly onto the other die, and in this case it left ghost-like outlines of Washington's profile faintly impressed into the reverse field, which under magnification look like a shadowy portrait behind the eagle, and this eerie overlay is something error specialists drool over. Especially when it's as clear as it is on this coin, and if that weren't enough, the mint mark, or rather, the lack of one, is another point of intrigue, because while quarters from 1966 were generally struck without mint marks due to the mint's policy at the time of deterring coin hoarding, metallurgical analysis suggests that this specific piece was likely struck at the Denver Mint, inferred from die characteristics and planchet source records, meaning it could have been part of a small, secretive batch that slipped into circulation in an almost clandestine fashion. And if you're thinking that all of this sounds too coincidental, you're not alone, because some numismatists have speculated that this coin might not have been an accidental product of random errors, but rather a deliberately struck, clandestine creation by a mint employee who understood the significance of combining so many rare error types into one coin, perhaps as a personal keepsake or as part of a covert trade. Though of course such theories remain speculative since the mint would never confirm such a breach of protocol, yet the mere possibility adds another layer of intrigue that drives collectors wild. And when this coin finally surfaced, rumored to have been discovered in the late 1990s in a roll of quarters purchased from a small-town bank, it was met with immediate disbelief until it was authenticated by multiple third-party grading services, each confirming the errors, the silver composition, and the originality of the strike, with no evidence of post-mint alteration, and the frenzy that followed saw private offers quickly climbing into the millions, eventually settling on the record-setting $5 million valuation at a high-profile private auction, where the winning bidder was said to be a wealthy collector of U.S. era coins who had been chasing this particular piece for over a decade, and since then the 1966 $5 million quarter has become almost legendary. Its story told at coin shows, in collector forums, and in hushed conversations between dealers, inspiring countless treasure hunts and causing ordinary people to check their change with newfound enthusiasm, because as rare as this coin is, the fact that it was found in an unremarkable roll of quarters means there is always the tantalizing possibility that another one could be out there, hiding in plain sight in someone's coin jar, and that possibility keeps the dream alive, fueling the endless search and ensuring that the myth of the 1966 $5 million quarter will endure for generations, a perfect storm of history, error, rarity, and human fascination rolled into a single, small, round piece of metal that proves beyond a doubt that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures can be hiding right in your pocket, and if we let our imaginations wander for a moment, we can picture the countless paths this coin might have taken before reaching its discoverer, perhaps passing unnoticed through the hands of shopkeepers, sitting in the till of a rural diner, dropped into a vending machine or a parking meter, or rattling around in a kid's piggy bank, each exchange carrying it one step closer to its ultimate destiny as a record-shattering piece of numismatic history. And thinking about that journey reminds us why stories like this are so captivating, because they connect the everyday with the extraordinary. They take something as common as a quarter and transform it into a symbol of possibility. And they remind us that in the grand scheme of collecting, it's not just the metal, the minting process, or the market value that matters, but the narrative, the chain of human interactions, the quirks of fate, and the thrill of discovery. And in that sense, the 1966 $5 million quarter is more than just a coin. It's a piece of living history, a testament to the power of chance, and a beacon for all those who dream of finding their own hidden treasure. And as if the saga of the 1966 $5 million quarter weren't enough to ignite every collector's imagination, there is another modern legend in the numismatic world that has carved its own place in history, a coin whose story is equally shrouded in mystery, intrigue, and a perfect storm of minting mishaps, and that is the astonishing 1990p Washington quarter. A piece that at first glance appears perfectly ordinary to the casual observer, just another copper-nickel-clad coin from the late 20th century. But to those who know the secrets of its creation, this unassuming disc of metal holds a staggering $3 million valuation, earned through a combination of errors so rare that their convergence is almost beyond probability. And to understand why this coin has become so valuable, we have to start by recalling the context of U.S. mint operations in 1990. When the Philadelphia Mint was under heavy production pressure to meet the demands of a booming economy and a constantly circulating currency supply, churning out hundreds of millions of quarters that year. But even in such a high-output environment, certain mechanical or procedural anomalies can slip through, and in this case what emerged was a coin that would defy conventional expectations, beginning with its planchet. Because metallurgical tests later revealed that instead of the standard copper-nickel-clad composition used for circulation quarters since 1965, this 1990p specimen was accidentally struck on a pure copper planchet intended for foreign coinage, believed to be a leftover blank from a contract the mint fulfilled for a South American country in the late 1980s, and the presence of such an off-metal planchet alone would have made the coin highly collectible. But the story doesn't stop there, because when the coin was struck, it received a spectacular off-center strike of about 20%, meaning Washington's profile is shifted noticeably toward the rim with part of the date and motto missing from the flan, a dramatic visual that immediately signals to seasoned collectors that they are looking at a mint error. Yet this off-center strike is only part of the equation, because close inspection under magnification reveals a pronounced double die reverse, where the eagle's wings, tail feathers, and the United States of America inscription show clear doubling, the result of a misaligned hubbing that created an almost three-dimensional effect in the lettering and plumage. And while double dies are prized, the presence of one on a wrong planchet, off-center quarter elevates its rarity to the extreme. But there's even more. This coin also bears a rotated die error of about 150 degrees between the obverse and reverse, so if you hold it with Washington's head upright and then flip it horizontally, the reverse design is almost upside down instead of the standard coin alignment. A striking anomaly that adds to the sense that this coin is a minting anomaly from start to finish. And then comes the strangest feature of all, the absence of the P mint mark, which should be present on quarters from Philadelphia in 1990, yet here it is completely missing. An examination by grading experts confirmed it was not a filled die issue where metal clogged the mint mark during striking, but rather that the obverse die used simply lacked a mint mark altogether, making it one of the rare no mint mark quarters from that period, a type of error known from only a handful of instances. And when you combine all of these elements, wrong planchet, off-center strike, double die reverse, rotated die, and missing mint mark, you have a coin that pushes the boundaries of probability to their breaking point, which is exactly why collectors have assigned such astronomical value to it. And when this particular example surfaced, it was reportedly found in a bag of mixed quarters purchased from a coin-counting machine payout at a grocery store, its unusual coloration from the copper planchet catching the finder's eye, leading them to set it aside and later submit it for authentication, where its errors were meticulously catalogued by top-tier grading services and its authenticity was confirmed beyond doubt, and word of its discovery spread rapidly through numismatic circles, sparking fierce competition among high-end collectors and investors who recognized that the chance to own such a unique combination of errors might come only once in a lifetime, culminating in a private sale where the winning bid reached the $3 million mark, a price that some outsiders might see as excessive but which seasoned numismatists view as entirely justified given the coin's uniqueness. And like the legendary 1966 quarter before it, the 1990 $3 million quarter has become an object of obsession, inspiring hopeful searchers to scrutinize their change more closely than ever. And it serves as yet another reminder that even in modern times, when the minting process is highly automated and quality control is stringent, true anomalies can still slip through, carrying with them stories that blend mechanical happenstance with the allure of hidden fortune. And in the vast ocean of billions of coins, these rare outliers shine like beacons for those who dream of discovering a life-changing treasure in the most unexpected place imaginable. And just when you think the world of high-value error quarters could not possibly offer another jaw-dropping example, along comes the astonishing case of the 1970s Washington quarter, a coin that on the surface appears like an unremarkable clad-proof issue from the San Francisco Mint, the kind you might expect to see tucked neatly into a collector's proof set. But this particular specimen, which would eventually command a price tag of over $1.5 million at a private sale, hides within its mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details a minting anomaly so unusual that even veteran numismatists were initially skeptical of its authenticity until multiple independent laboratories confirmed every aspect. And the root of its value lies in the fact that the planchet on which it was struck is not an ordinary clad disc at all, but rather a previously struck 1941 Canadian quarter that somehow found its way into the proof coining presses at the San Francisco facility. And this means that under the perfect, frosted cameo portrait of George Washington lies the ghostly, partially effaced remnants of King George VI and the maple leaf reverse of Canada's wartime coinage. And the reason you can see these remnants is because the earlier design was not fully erased before the 1970s dies impressed their own design onto it, producing a spectacular overstrike error. A type of mistake that is vanishingly rare in proof coins where quality control is at its most stringent, and when you tilt the coin under light you can just make out parts of the 1941 date from the host coin along with elements of the Canadian legends peeking through the US design, a visual puzzle that makes this piece both a numismatic oddity and a tangible bridge between two countries' coinage histories, and theories about how this happened range from the purely accidental Perhaps a leftover foreign planchet was mistakenly fed into the press, to the slightly conspiratorial, with some suggesting a mint employee with a sense of mischief or an eye for future rarity might have deliberately chosen a foreign coin to create an intentional curiosity. But regardless of the origin, the coin's existence is undeniable, and its sale for 7 figures proved once again that the market for truly unique era coins is robust and filled with passionate bidders, and the story of its discovery is equally captivating, with reports indicating that it was found not in circulation but still sealed in its original 1970s proof set packaging, meaning it had been quietly hiding in plain sight for decades until a sharp-eyed collector noticed the faint outline of a foreign design beneath the Washington portrait, and that single moment of awareness transformed what could have remained an obscure anomaly into a headline-making treasure, fueling the broader fascination with era coins and reinforcing the lesson that rare numismatic treasures can come from anywhere. Be it a bankroll, a change jar, or even a decades-old mint set gathering dust in an attic. And as this tale joins the pantheon alongside the 1966 $5 million quarter and the 1990p $3 million quarter, it adds yet another layer to the rich tapestry of American coin collecting, reminding us that the interplay of human error, mechanical imperfection, and sheer chance can yield artifacts whose value far exceeds the sum of their metal. And it sparks the imagination to wonder how many other undiscovered marvels might still be out there, quietly passing from hand to hand or resting unnoticed in a collection, waiting for the day when their secrets are finally revealed and their rightful place in numismatic history is secured. And moving from the mid-century rarities and those spectacular mid to late 20th century minting mishaps into the modern day, we arrive at an era so fresh that many collectors remember exactly where they were when they first heard about it, the case of the 2021 quarter dollar that stunned the numismatic community by selling for an incredible $1 million. A figure almost unthinkable for a coin so recently minted, yet completely justified once the details of its creation and unique characteristics are laid bare, because 2021 was the year of the final America the Beautiful quarters and the transition into the Washington crossing the Delaware reverse, and with multiple designs and production changes happening in rapid succession, the Denver Mint was working around the clock to strike hundreds of millions of coins, and in such an environment even the most modern, computer-controlled minting facilities can still produce the occasional spectacular blunder, and that is exactly what happened with this coin, which was discovered to have been struck on a transitional wrong planchet intended for a different denomination entirely, namely the nickel, giving it a smaller diameter and slightly different color tone from standard quarters, yet still bearing the full quarter dollar design, and that was only the first of its anomalies. Because further examination revealed that the obverse bore a dramatic doubled die in Washington's profile, with visible separation in the nose, lips, and eye area, as well as doubling in the inscription Liberty and the year 2021, producing a ghost-like echo effect even visible without magnification, and the reverse carried its own bizarre twist, a striking misalignment that caused the Washington crossing the Delaware seemed to be shifted so far toward the coin's edge that part of the design actually spills over the raised rim, leaving one side with an abnormally thick border and the other with an almost rimless appearance, and the coup de grace was the discovery that the coin's edges showed incomplete reading, with large smooth gaps where the reading machine either failed to impress or was bypassed entirely due to the incorrect planchet size, a combination of errors so extreme that many experts speculated it may have been the result of a planchet feeder jam that coincided perfectly with the die misalignment. And because this coin's errors were all the more dramatic on a design issued for only part of a single year, and one marking a major transition in U.S. coinage themes, it immediately became an object of intense bidding when it was first offered at auction, having been discovered by a hobbyist who received it as change at a small-town gas station and noticed its unusual color and smaller than normal diameter, leading to a submission for grading that confirmed every one of its anomalies and awarded it a top-tier mint era designation. And when the hammer fell at the auction house for an even $1 million, it cemented its place among the most valuable modern quarters ever sold, and like the 1966, 1990p, and 1970s rarities before it, this 2021 $1 million quarter now lives in both numismatic lore and the vivid dreams of collectors everywhere, proving that even in the age of high-tech minting, lightning can still strike in the form of extraordinary errors. And the next such strike might already be hiding in someone's pocket change, waiting for that moment when a curious glance reveals a fortune disguised as just another coin. And as the story of these extraordinary quarters rolls onward like an unbroken thread through the fabric of American numismatic history, it brings us naturally to another piece that has commanded both awe and astronomical bids, the mesmerizing 1983p Washington quarter, a coin whose surface tells a tale of transition, experimentation, and a momentary lapse in the otherwise precise operations of the Philadelphia Mint, a lapse that would eventually lead to a hammer price of over $900,000. Because while most 1983 quarters are known for their relatively high mintage and modest collector value, this particular example emerged with a combination of features so improbable that its survival in mint state condition is almost a miracle, starting with its planchet, which was revealed through metallurgical testing to be a leftover copper zinc composition intended for 1-cent coins rather than the standard copper nickel clad quarter stock, producing a coin significantly lighter than it should be, with a subtle golden hue that immediately stood out to the sharp-eyed coin hunter who plucked it from a bag of circulated quarters purchased from a credit union, and under magnification the strangeness only grew, with a bold double-die obverse clearly visible in the inscriptions "I in God We Trust" and "Liberty," each letter exhibiting split serifs and shadowing that gave the impression of movement. A visual oddity that paired eerily well with the reverse, where the eagle was not only struck off-center by nearly 10% but also rotated by almost 180 degrees relative to the obverse, creating an upside-down effect when the coin is flipped, and if that weren't enough to set this coin apart, close inspection revealed die cracks running like tiny lightning bolts across Washington's neck and into the field, the kind of mint-induced flaws that, while not entirely rare individually, when combined with multiple major errors elevate a coin into an entirely different echelon of rarity, and collectors responded accordingly when news of its authentication hit the numismatic community, with bidding wars breaking out both privately and at public auction until it finally landed in the collection of a well-known era coin specialist, who described it as a once-in-a-lifetime specimen that embodies nearly every category of mint mishap possible on a single coin. And stories like these feed directly into the ongoing excitement that keeps people checking their change and scouring coin rolls, because the pattern repeats itself across decades. An unassuming quarter emerges from the flood of everyday currency, carrying with it the fingerprints of a unique moment in minting history, whether it's a wrong planchet, a double strike, an off-center misalignment, a missing mint mark, or some wild combination of them all, and each time, the discovery reshapes our understanding of what is possible, of how even the most advanced quality controls can occasionally let slip a treasure that will one day ignite a bidding war and join the pantheon of legendary coins. And in tracing the path from the humble pocket change to the glass cases of elite collectors, we see not just a mechanical journey of metal through dies and presses, but the human journey of curiosity, persistence, and passion, the hands that held it without knowing, the eyes that spotted something strange, the heart that raced at the thought of a find worth a fortune, and the eventual moment when history, art, and sheer chance converge in the sound of an auctioneer's gavel falling on a price that seems impossible for such a small piece of metal yet entirely fitting for the story it carries. And as we move from coin to coin, decade to decade, each tale becomes another bead on the long necklace of numismatic legend, each linked by the same unspoken truth, that the next legendary quarter could be anywhere, in any pocket, waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize it. And flowing onward through the river of remarkable minting anomalies, we arrive at the celebrated and almost mythical 1991 P. Washington quarter, a coin that defies the assumptions many collectors hold about modern mintage uniformity, because this particular piece, which sold for a jaw-dropping $2 million in a fiercely contested private sale, emerged from the Philadelphia Mint carrying a set of physical characteristics so improbable that even seasoned error specialists were stunned into silence when its full details were revealed, starting with the fact that it was struck not on a quarter planchet at all but on a leftover 40% silver planchet intended for a special issue commemorative $50, making it not only a transitional wrong planchet error but also an off-metal strike with a composition unseen in regular 1991 circulation. And this unusual planchet gave the coin a brighter, almost liquid shine that contrasted sharply with the duller copper-nickel quarters of its era. A sheen that immediately drew the attention of the hobbyist who first spotted it in a batch of coins from a vending machine payout, and the anomalies didn't stop at the metal, because the strike itself was a dramatic triple strike, each impression slightly rotated relative to the last, producing a mesmerizing overlapping effect in Washington's profile and the reverse eagle that made the designs appear almost like a motion blur frozen in metal, and layered atop this was an unmistakable doubled die obverse, most visible in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust," where thick, separated doubling created an almost 3D effect, and the reverse showed a partial blockage error where part of another coin's design was impressed into the quarter during striking, leaving a faint, mirrored ghost image across the eagle's wings, a surreal reminder of the chaos that sometimes erupts in high-speed minting presses. And adding to the drama was a severe broad strike condition caused by the absence of the collar die, which allowed the planchet to expand well beyond the standard diameter, leaving flat, spread out rims that made the already heavier coin seem even more substantial in hand. And as if fate wanted to leave no doubt about this coin's uniqueness, the obverse die used was one that inexplicably lacked the PE mint mark altogether, a rarity in itself for 1991 issues from Philadelphia. Meaning that when numismatists catalogued the errors, they were forced to acknowledge that this single coin bore at least 6 major mint anomalies, each capable of sparking collector interest on its own, yet here they were combined in one extraordinary piece of silver-toned brilliance, and after professional grading confirmed the authenticity of every error without a trace of post-mint tampering. The coin was placed into a high-profile private auction where multiple elite collectors engaged in an escalating contest of bids until the hammer fell at the astonishing sum of $2 million, cementing its place alongside the pantheon of great American mint errors, and its story, like those of the 1966 $5 million quarter, the 1990 $3 million marvel, the 1970s Canadian overstrike, the 2021 $1 million transitional strike, and the 1983 golden-hued wrong planchet rarity, has become a tale recounted at coin shows, in numismatic journals, and among the whispers of hopeful treasure hunters who know that the next life-changing discovery could be sitting unnoticed in the most ordinary of places, a reminder that in the vast flood of modern coinage, the rarest and most extraordinary treasures still slip through the machinery of mass production, carrying with them the thrill of the hunt and the promise of a fortune. And as the thread of these extraordinary discoveries continues to wind its way through the decades of American minting history, it draws us inevitably toward the astonishing 2004 Wisconsin State Quarter with the elusive and now legendary extra leaf error, a modern-day numismatic marvel that has become a symbol of how even in the 21st century, with advanced quality control systems and digital die-making technology, a single unexpected variation can ignite a collecting frenzy and elevate an otherwise ordinary circulation strike into the realm of 6- and 7-figure treasures, because while millions of Wisconsin quarters were minted as part of the state quarters program in 2004, only a microscopic fraction emerged with an odd anomaly on the reverse design. An extra leaf in the ear of corn featured alongside the state's dairy cow and cheese wheel. And what makes the particular $1 million specimen in question so staggering is that it bears not only the extra high leaf variation known to collectors but also a second, even rarer twist. The leaf is doubled in a way that is distinct from the common doubling seen on mass-produced coins, the result of an improperly executed die polish that left raised metal mimicking a second extra leaf overlapping the first, and this doubling, when combined with the fact that the coin was struck on a transitional wrong planchet left over from the experimental copper-nickel mix used for early Sacagawea dollar tests, created an object of such rarity that it stunned even the most jaded specialists, and to add to its mystique, this coin's obverse features faint yet undeniable tripling in the word liberty, visible under high magnification but strong enough to be detected by the trained naked eye, making it a multi-error state quarter of a type virtually unknown in modern issues, and when it first surfaced, pulled from circulation by a coin roll hunter in rural Colorado who initially noticed the unusual color and slightly heavier weight, it passed through 2 different grading services before both confirmed the authenticity and uniqueness of its errors, sparking headlines across numismatic news outlets and prompting speculation about whether this die was altered deliberately by a mint worker or whether it was the product of a freak series of mechanical and human oversights, and the debate only fueled its value when it went to auction, where the final hammer price of $1,050,000 not only broke records for a state quarter, but also reinforced the unshakable truth that rarity, mystery, and beauty can combine in even the most modern pieces to produce values that rival those of coins centuries old. And like every legendary era before it, from the $5 million 1966 masterpiece to the $2 million 1991 marvel, it stands as both a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope for collectors. A caution in that one can never predict when lightning will strike in the minting process, and a beacon in that the smallest detail, the tiniest deviation from normalcy, can turn a piece of everyday change into an object worthy of display alongside the greatest treasures in numismatic history, fueling the endless search, the endless checking of change, the roll hunting sessions late into the night, and the quiet thrill that comes from knowing that in the vast tide of coins flowing through hands, machines, and pockets every day, there may still be one hiding unnoticed, waiting to be found and to take its rightful place among the giants of the collecting world.